Yep.
Welcome to the Stack of Stats podcast. I am your host, Pam Maldonado, joined by my college football partner in crime, Harry Gagnon of the Against All Odds podcast with Cousin Sal. We are here to bring you our 7 against the spread college football picks for week 9. Holy heck. College football is going by so fast. Harry, I really missed you last week. I'm so disappointed that we didn't get to do a podcast. Happy to have you back this week. How are you feeling? What's going on?
Awesome, Pam. Sorry about last week. Everything's great. Hopefully, another like I said, you saved us. You saved us last week when you took the 7th pick with a winner for us. We took Tampa Bay, laid 12.5, won that one easy against Chicago. So nice job by you there. So you made us 4-3 for the week. But let's break this. Let's get 6-1. Let's do this. Come on.
We did go 4-3 last week. We're 29-25 overall. We need to do better. And that time starts now. We're going to crush it. I just feel it. What we are doing each week, Harry is sharing with me. We are in a football contest between college football and the NFL. Harry is sharing with me his top 3 picks. I'm sharing with him my top 3. And together we're coming up with our 7th. So let's take a look at your 3 plays, man. UNLV at Nevada minus 20.5 at home. This game is on Friday night. I can't say that I disagree. Nevada Wolfpack, great team at home. Quarterback stud. He's going to end up in the NFL. But tell me about this game. Why do you like the Nevada? Such a big spread.
It's a big spread, I know, but I am going to lay this in. UNLV actually, considering they have 0 wins this year, they haven't been bad when it's come to covering the spread. But I am still going with this rival here. I'm going to take the rival in Nevada, Reno, laying the big number. You mentioned quarterback Carson Strong, 20 touchdowns this year, 2,500 yards. He's got 12 in the last 3 weeks combined. And I just think UNLV's quarterback situation here, they just have 5 total passing touchdowns on the entire season. Too much offense here for Nevada. And not to mention Nevada's defense. 28 sacks this year. UNLV has 7. They forced 13 turnovers. They're going to do a pretty good job, I think, doing that against the Rebels. And I think Nevada rolls it up big.
Nevada going to be able to put up points, 33rd in total offense, 83rd in total defense. And UNLV, bottom 30 for total defense. Yeah. Carson Strong, 4th best passing quarterback in all of college football. And UNLV, 110th against the pass. I agree. Run it up. Nevada at home Friday night. The second game that you like up on the board is Titans at Colts, -1 at home. The world is on Indianapolis. I mean it. The line opened up the Titans -1. The line moved to the Colts -1. They have already played once this season in Tennessee, week 3. The Titans won 25-16. I'm not quite convinced like the rest of the world is. So help me along. What's going on? Why do you like this game?
The Colts, look, they're on a nice little run here and really should have beat Baltimore on that Monday night game. They just blew that game late in the 4th. They've been playing pretty good lately, like I said. And I think Tennessee here, Pam, after back-to-back weeks, great wins by Tennessee against Buffalo and Kansas City. But still, I think they're due for a little bit of a letdown here. Carson Wentz hasn't been bad. 4 straight games, at least 2 touchdowns.
1 interception.
Yeah, I mean, he's managing games, and second-year player Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman lead in rushing, lead in receiving. They've been fantastic for Wentz. Taylor's even the 3rd best receiver right now on the Colts and on defense. On defense, the Colts have forced 16 turnovers. That's a ton already this season. I'm leaning towards the Colts here. I like them. I think they keep rolling. They need this game more than Tennessee does. A win here for the Colts gets them back definitely in the AFC South talk too. So I think it just means more to them here. And again, Tennessee, after wins against Buffalo and Kansas City, time for a little bit of a letdown.
I'm not a big believer in this is a must-win game. I can't stand it when people say that. It's my biggest pet peeve in betting. However, this is a must-win game. If there was ever a time to use it, this would be now. Colts definitely have an opportunity to kind of sneak into the playoff run, sneak into the division. So I don't disagree with it. I don't think it would make my personal betting card, but I love that you're on it. Kelly in Vegas, I know that she is on it. So I trust both of you guys. Okay. Let me tell you about one game that I don't trust. It is your third pick. It is Kansas at Oklahoma State minus 30.5. All right. So let me try to convince you off of this pick. I know that we said top threes, we're going to stick them in, but let me try to convince you otherwise.
Okay.
When a team is run only offense, it is so tough to create separation on this big of a spread. Oklahoma State, 95th in passing, 49th in rushing offense. So they're not even really like that great. Top 20 in converting on third downs, which means they have the ability to extend those drives. Top 25 in time of possession. So you're talking about a slow ass team who does nothing but run the ball, takes their time downfield to cover a big 31-point spread. It may work out. The Cowboys, they would have to absolutely shut out Kansas with a game total of 54.5. Mike Gundy's offense has only scored over 30 points twice this season, and that was 31 to K-State and 32 to Texas. Now, I'm not comparing Kansas to either of those teams, but that is such a big spread. I had it on one of my notes that I actually liked Kansas in this game.
I saw that.
So yeah, you and I swapped it. So what do you if you like love it, we'll keep it.
We can change it. We can definitely change it. But let me say this. Let me see if you like this a little bit. First off, last year Oklahoma State beat them by 40, and in the last 6 games this year, Kansas is averaging giving up 47 points. Now, last week I watched that game against Oklahoma. They played their hearts out in that game. They gave everything they had in that game. They were controlling that game for 2.5 quarters until Oklahoma really finally got. They held Oklahoma like to nothing in the first half. It was so impressive. But I think this is a situation when a team like this. I think they're 1-6 now. They gave everything they had for that game at home in Oklahoma. Now they're on the road, and I just think Oklahoma State they have nothing left in the tank in this game. They have nothing there. I think Oklahoma State just pounced the ball. And they bounce back. And Oklahoma State's bouncing back from that first loss too.
Or you're talking about they kind of just roll over and die here. What if they kind of use that as momentum? Kansas, I've actually played them a couple times this season because I played them against Coastal Carolina. They covered. They actually could have probably won that game if they wasn't for boneheaded mistakes in the red zone. But Kansas, they're kind of a really sneaky good team, and they're the team that kind of shows up whenever you least expect it. I've got to be honest. I want us to try to go as 7-0 as possible, and I don't love this. If I put it on the card, I would regret it. And then as soon as they lose by like 21, I'm like, see, told you.
Okay, told you. We can go out. We can go elsewhere. We got a bunch of other picks.
Let's look at the other game that you sent me.
Okay.
I'm more inclined to take this one for sure. You like the Vikings plus 1.5 at home to the Cowboys. Now, the quarterback for Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott, he may not play in this game. You have seen some major line movement. The Cowboys moved from -2.5 favorites to now +1 underdogs. Well, the contest line, we're getting the Vikings at +1.5 instead of the current line of -1.5. So for this reason alone, I think it offers up a lot of value. But what are a lot of people going to do in the contest? Probably put Vikings for the same reason. I don't disagree with this. So I would feel more comfortable having this up on the board rather than Oklahoma State.
Okay. Well, look, the Vikings, I'm a big backer of Kirk Cousins. He's got 13 touchdowns, just 2 picks this season. I think the offense is very good on Minnesota. You got Thielen and Jefferson. They've got 950 yards already combined on the season, and like 8 touchdowns. Dalvin Cook's healthy, ready to go. And I think this Dallas team, they've been great, but if Dak Prescott especially isn't in the game, and their defense is getting a lot of praise, but if you take away games this season, Pam, against NFC East teams, Dallas has given up 31 to Tampa, 28 to Carolina, 29 to the Patriots, and gave up 17 to the Chargers. But the Chargers got screwed out of 2 touchdowns that were touchdowns, and they were called back for penalties that really were questionable. So I'm thinking the Minnesota offense is going to light it up here. And listen, they're 3-3. Minnesota really should be 5-1. They gave away that game in overtime. They fumbled against the Bengals and lost by 1 to Arizona, where they missed a 29-yard field goal at the end of the game. So I think Minnesota is not getting their due here. I just think they're a better team than that 3-3 record shows, and I think they take care of Dallas, especially if Prescott isn't in the game.
I will say that you have the Cowboys, who are top 5 for red zone offense and scoring. And then you also have the Vikings, who are top 5 for red zone defense. One of those has to give. I'm always going to be more inclined to take the defensive minded coach in a defensive minded game. You got to figure out how to stop Dak Prescott and company from just like lighting up the scoreboard. If this does end up happening, I agree with how the Cowboys just let teams score. I definitely don't mind this. So if you want to put this on the card in place of Oklahoma State,
let's do it. We're doing it. Let's do it.
I would feel a lot better
fine.
with this one, especially since we're getting such significant line value for contest purposes, getting the plus instead of the current line of minus. I think that adds an extra weight to adding it as opposed to Oklahoma State, which I'm gonna text you on Sunday, Saturday, and be like, "See."
I know that was we'll see, but we'll take the Vikings. And plus, we're getting like 3 points there, right?
Exactly,
at least 3. Might get more by game time.
Exactly. So then those are going to be the 3 games that we like for you. We're going to do UNLV at Nevada -20.5. We're going to do Colts -1 at home to Titans. And then we're going to stick with the Vikings +1.5 because the current line is now -1.5 at home to the Cowboys. Moving over to my 3 games that I do like. I take West Virginia +7 at home to Iowa State. My key rule for West Virginia, you fade them on the road, but you absolutely do back them at home, especially as underdogs. They're a great team. They are a better team offensively and a better team defensively when playing at home. At home, they held a rushing team in Virginia Tech to 2.7 yards per carry. They held a passing team in Texas Tech to less than 300 passing yards. And if you look at the splits for West Virginia quarterback Jarrett Doege, away, he has 7 yards per pass, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 10 sacks. But when he plays at home, 9.5 yards per pass, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception, 5 sacks. And now you have the Cyclones who are coming off an absolute big monstrous game that had a lot of implications for maybe the title game. When they won big at home against the undefeated then Oklahoma State, who is also a ranked team, and now they're traveling on the road, facing a team that is definitely a much better than what their stats indicate, because rarely do splits like significantly matter. For West Virginia, they absolutely matter, and they have been a team that I have been on at home, fading away, and it has been absolutely profitable. West Virginia actually beat that curse. They are now 1-7 on the road. They won last week on the road, traveling to, what was it? TCU, was it Baylor? I should know this.
It was TCU, wasn't it?
It was TCU. On the road, they broke that curse. And so now they're kind of using that momentum riding into this game. I absolutely love West Virginia +7 at home. I'm probably going to sprinkle some on the money line. I haven't made it that far. But what do you think about this game?
Like we mentioned before, and we went with West Virginia earlier this year. You had them, and that was a winner. Definitely, and we mentioned that, definitely a better team at home than on the road. But you're going against my Cyclones. Love Iowa State.
Hey, maybe they could win, but I'm just looking for a cover.
Right, that's fine too. And you know what? In West Virginia's
getting a full touchdown at home.
Getting a full touchdown, and in West Virginia's 3 of their 4 losses this year have been by 6 or less. So they've been in their games. So they don't get blown out. That. So we're getting +7.
Yep.
+7. Okay. West Virginia. Let's rock.
West Virginia. Let's do it. The second game that I like is Mississippi State +1.5 at home to Kentucky. Now, the Wildcats, they are a one-dimensional run team, and the Bulldogs' defensive strength against the run. They are 10th best, in fact. And Mississippi State, also a one-dimensional team, but this time they're heavy on the pass. Kentucky's defensive strength is also against the run, vulnerable in that secondary, barely breaks the top 40 for passing defense. And they both have one opponent in common, LSU. Mississippi State held the Tigers to less first downs, less total yards, less time of possession. And why the Bulldogs lost that game was because they had a missed field goal and a fumble that led to an interception that led to points. So this has to be an absolute clean game. And if you remember last year's matchup, Mississippi State's quarterbacks had a combined 6 interceptions, 2 from then backup quarterback Will Rogers, who is now the main quarterback now. 7 interceptions on the season, 5 in his last 2 games. That is my one concern. Kentucky is not honestly any better when it comes to turnover. They are -8 in turnover ratio. So you have 2 teams who love to give the ball away. And I'm thinking that Mississippi State, looking for like a good revenge spot after last year's performance, I'm going to give the edge to the defense for the Bulldogs. Kentucky, possibly still licking their wounds from the Georgia game, even though they're coming off a bye. What do you think about this one? A little bit more risky, but I like it.
Yeah. Tough game because Kentucky is a team that I've bet before the season on over wins. Looks fantastic. But you mentioned Will Rogers. Also, it's interesting that he's got those interceptions lately because he is a pretty good quarterback and completes 74% of his passes. That's very high. But more than anything, I'm going to take roll with you here. Mississippi State. Did you have, only because just because did you see the speech last week by head coach Mike Leach about his candy, like what he likes in candy? Have you seen it? You haven't seen it. You have to look it up on Twitter. On Twitter, Mike Leach, his speech about what's good, what candies are good, what candies are not good after their win, while everyone's celebrating. He's talking about candy to the. You got to check it out. Anyone out there,
stress-free
life.
You
gotta check it out. Gotta check it out. Mike Leach about candy. It's hilarious. So let's go Mississippi State.
Mississippi State, and whatever candy he's talking about, I'm gonna go buy it. If he wins this game, I'm gonna go buy that candy, and I don't need candy. So let's go, Mike Leach.
Spree. I figured you would, but he loves sprees. Loves sprees and nerds.
I don't even know what sprees are. The third game up on the board that I like is UTEP +11 at Florida Atlantic. El Paso. There's two teams in Texas that are absolutely crushing life. And they are not Texas. They aren't TCU. They're not. It is UTEP, El Paso, and UTSA. I absolutely love it that the two best teams in Texas.
13-1 combined, I think.
13-1 combined. I'm telling you, the two best teams in Texas is not Texas. It is amazing to see. I absolutely love it. And yes, I am loving backing UTEP +11 on the road to Florida Atlantic. This team has two strengths. One, they are top 10 in total defense, 30th against the pass, 7th against the run, top 25 in generating quarterback pressure, 20 total sacks generated on the season. And the Owls quarterback, N'Kosi Perry, he has been sacked 17 times this season. And what stops drives? Attacking the quarterback. I absolutely love it when a pass rush fares up so well against a terrible offensive line. Now the problem comes, can the Miners score? They just need to run the ball and keep the ball away from Florida Atlantic. FAU is bottom 15 against the run. Apply that quarterback pressure, keep the offense on the ground, generate some turnovers because UTEP is top 20 in takeaways. Plus, they're 6-1 on the season. Momentum is on their side. I love UTEP +11 at Florida Atlantic. Maybe you sprinkle some on the money line, but I definitely love the plus. What do you think?
Pam, I like this fine by you. I really do. I like this play. I mean, I don't know why it's that high. Why is it? I can't understand why the spread's that high. I mean, like you mentioned, they're 6-1. They've won 4 in a row. 4 of their 6 wins by double digits. And the defense, you also mentioned too. They've held opponents to 21 or less points in 4 straight games. The UTEP Miners have done that. That's amazing. I don't care who they're playing. That's amazing. They have 20 sacks as a team. Florida Atlantic 4-3 this year, but their win. I mean, one of their wins was against Fordham. I mean, they're a 1AA school, So I don't know. I just don't understand why it's so high. But I'll take the 10. What are we getting? 10, 10.5?
Getting 11.
Getting 11. I'm with you. I love this. I love this play. Let's get this one.
I definitely think they can come out with a win, but I love +11. Those are going to be the 6 games that we have then. So we got to come up with the 7th. So let me see if I can entice you on one. Okay. Illinois +1.5 at home to Rutgers. Illinois, yes, I know, is coming off the 9 overtime win over Penn State. 2 run first teams, but the better offense is actually with the Fighting Illini. Rutgers is 88th in rushing yards, 106 in yards per carry. You have a 1-2 punch with Illinois running backs Chase Brown and Joshua McCray. Together account for 2/3 of the total rushing yards, 5 of the 7 total rushing scores. And the Scarlet Knights have just 1 running back with over 300 rushing yards on the season. These two teams are actually pretty similar when it comes to defense. So I will take the better offense, who is maybe riding some of that wave from last week playing against Penn State into the next week. If you don't love it, we can look up something else.
What else you got?
What else do you got? All right, let's see. Let's see what else we got. I don't blame you.
How about your give me your reasons on your Virginia. I know you like Virginia.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me see. Okay. So I actually really love the under in this game, and I'm now a little hesitant about the plus, but maybe I can convince myself after rereading my notes. So you have the most potent offense that the Cougars have faced. This is the most potent offense that the Cougars have faced. The Cavaliers, they are top 30 in points per play, first in red zone attempts, second in red zone scores, 12th in offensive touchdowns. So they're not only getting downfield, they're putting up the points. Defensively, Virginia is giving up the yards. They are terrible offense, terrible defense, bottom 20 in total defense, but they're not necessarily giving up the points. Both teams are 62nd in opponent red zone scores. BYU is better at limiting touchdowns, but guess who has the better kicker? There you have Virginia on the road as less than a field goal. If this comes down to a field goal game, Virginia's Brendan Farrell, 90% field goals made. BYU's Jake Oldroyd, 65%. That is a pretty significant difference when you are a less than a touchdown favorite. So I will take the better offense that can put up more touchdowns, that has the better kicker for what could be a field goal type of game.
Yeah,
actually, now I love Virginia.
Well, hopefully, maybe I got a little extra here to add about the Cavaliers because look, BYU is struggling lately. They lost at home as a favorite to Boise by 9. They lost in Waco by double digits to Baylor, and last week they barely beat Washington State, who's not a good team, and all their coaches had to leave because they wouldn't get vaccinated. So on and on about Washington State having their issues. They barely beat them. They beat them by 2 points. Meanwhile, you mentioned Virginia's offense, 7 of 8 games this year, 30 points or more. They've gone back-to-back 48-point games here in the last 2, and their quarterback, Brennan Armstrong, 28 total touchdowns. The offense is there, like you mentioned, Pam, like you said, the defense isn't good, but the offense is there. And I think in a spot right here, little small number as a dog, I think the odds makers are saying right now Virginia is still the better team.
It's still the better team. I do like it. So then you want to do with that one and just call it quits? Call it a day?
Let's do it.
My God.
That's a fun game.
Oh, I freaking love our card. 7-0. Let's go. So then those are 7 against the spread picks for college football and for the NFL. We're taking Nevada minus 20.5 at home to UNLV, which is a Friday game. Keep that in mind. We're taking for the NFL Colts minus 1 at home to the Titans, Vikings plus 1.5 at home to the Cowboys, West Virginia plus 7 at home to Iowa State, Mississippi State plus 1.5 at home to Kentucky, UTEP on the road plus 11 underdogs to Florida Atlantic, and Virginia plus 2.5 dogs at BYU. I have in my notes also plus 120 on the money line. I love that game. So those are 7 picks against the spread. Do make sure to check out Harry's work on bestbetcorner.com and extrapoints.com and on all the Against All Odds podcast with Cousin Sal. You can follow him on Twitter at AAOHarry. You can follow me on Twitter at Pamela M35. Harry, speak it into existence. We're going 7-0. At worst, I think we're going 5-2 because we haven't had one 5-2 week yet.
Yeah. We'll get there. And by the way, Pam, just throwing this in there. We haven't used it a lot, but when we have used the NFL, we are now 3-0.
Oh, can we go 5-0? Oh, I love that. I love that even more. Okay, let's rock it. I love it. Harry, thank you so much for joining me this week. I can't wait to do it again next week. That does it for another college football and NFL podcast for